Yeah.
Where can I see it?
This afternoon, but he's going over to meet with some other administration officials. He's spending the day in Washington, D.C.
For sure.
So,
I'm here to... For sure. I'm here to...
Home to New Zealand's biggest range of smartphones.
we told you yesterday.
Come in, New Zealand. Check, check, 1, 2.
I think you're good.
We may or may not be good. Hello, New Zealand. Let us know if we're good. Are we indeed? Let's have a look on the old Rima Facebook. Ooh,
Oh, yep, we are.
We are?
We are. We're up. We're up. We're moving.
Hey up, all beans. Welcome to Trending, you delicious individuals. Stuff to talk about today. Wow. Some of these are really, man, we cover some ground today. Woo-wee. Woo-wee.
Welcome to Trending, by the way. If you're watching the live stream at the moment, we're technically in the pre-show before we get to the actual show live on air as well on Rima. But of course, you're watching the
This is where the hardcore fans hang
extra
out.
special broadcast.
Yep.
The live stream.
Yeah, we might try and stick around for a little bit after the show too, by the way. Something we're trying to do more regularly. Assuming the sound works. Our apologies too for those who've had to make do with maybe watching us on the stream while having the radio open next to your computer. What you could do is go to the Rima website and then open the stream, the audio stream there, and then have our video stream up in Facebook on another tab. And then that will,
That just shows how much of a massive fan you are.
Yeah. So say hello if you are in chat today. Let me, as always, check with my offsite technical director and make sure that...
By the way, don't know if you noticed this, but I'm wearing a ironed shirt today because of Trending.
Wow.
I ironed this shirt.
Damn.
It was a little wrinkly, and I was like, it's not good enough. It's not good enough for the live stream.
That is the standard to which we now hold ourselves. Ironed shirts only. How are you with ironing a shirt? Is it like...
I'm okay.
Yeah?
It's certainly not something I've done often enough to be proficient.
Yep.
But I'm not going to be so like a child with baby hands going, I don't know what to do.
And I appreciate that. Can you tie a tie?
I cannot tie a tie.
Oh, really?
I can't tie a tie.
Oh, buddy.
I did not tie my tie on my wedding day.
Well, you know, as I think about it, so I was out last night with a friend of mine, and we were at a place, the bottom Britomart in town, which for those of you who don't know, it's right next door to a whole bunch of swanky offices. So after 5 p.m., they all kind of come out and, you know, hang out for a while and grab a pint after work or whatever. But even then, when they were in like fancy suits and nice crisp white shirts, nary a tie to be seen.
Oh.
Quite a few lanyards, though. So I wonder if a lanyard is like the
new
2025 tie.
accoutrement.
Yeah, exactly. Adding a little je ne sais quoi.
By the way, 6 people watching on
Hey-o.
the Facebook stream at the moment. Pretty
Hello,
cool to
friends.
see. Feel free to comment below. We'd love to know who you are, where you're watching from, also what you imagine might be in the trending stories today on this show. Trending officially kicking off in like
About a minute. About a minute. Also, let us know if you can tie a tie, by the way.
Shirt looks well ironed, Josh, says Aki. Thank you.
Hey, that's the kind of feedback we want.
Absolutely.
I actually wore I was going to say an ironing not required shirt. This shirt.
Polo.
A polo. This is one of those shirts, though, that if you leave it kind of bunched up somewhere, because, of course, not everything makes it to the wardrobe. Some of it ends up on the chair.
The famous chair.
Then, it can end up a little wrinkly, and then you're like, oh, do I actually have to iron this now? But then ironing a polo feels so bad.
Very strange.
Speaking of strange, the show kicking off in about a minute. So, look, I'm going to prep us to go live over here. But thank you, as always, for joining us. Boy, do we cover some ground today. Yeah, it's going to be a journey, everyone. So stick around. Thanks for being a part of the pre-show. And when we come back, the first of our stories for today. And who knows? Who knows where else we might land? Much like those astronauts.
Live on air and online. Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Kia ora, everyone. No mai, haere mai. Welcome to Trending on this Wednesday, the 19th of March. What a week it has been, and what better place to sit back, take a look through the happenings over the last week and find out which ones have really resonated with the people and which ones left us cold. That's what this show is all about. Going back through the news headlines, both those that we can track via places like Google, and also, too, what's happening on our major news services and which stories are proving to be the most popular with the wider community. Sometimes it's surprising, sometimes it's infuriating, but always fascinating. Just like Josh Beatty.
Why, thank you, good sir.
Welcome along. Nicely ironed shirt, by the way. We're talking about this just before we started.
That's right. So if you want to watch the live stream and be a part of the pre-show, which did just happen, you can find both the live stream at Facebook and YouTube. Head to rema.co.nz. Or, of course, if you are just listening the traditional way on your radio, you can still get in touch, by the way, 8168 with the keyword REMA.
Yeah, if you want to send us a text and maybe rate Josh's ironing skills on said shirt. Is this a new shirt as well, or is it just...
No, actually, this is in all of the Life FM imaging.
Yep.
This is that shirt.
Life FM. Life FM.
I don't know.
Little startup station.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just getting its feet under it.
Right. Okay. So with that said, of course, the show would not be what it is without your contribution. So as Josh said, drop us a comment in the chat if you're watching on the streams, or send us a text and let us know particularly what the things that made you go, says you. Because that's really the guiding ethos of the show.
Curiosity.
Exactly. And with that said, we decided we kind of had to take a bit of a liberty with our first story for today. It's one that, as of right now at least, we can't see in the trends, though I have a feeling it might bump up later on today. So with that said,
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
let us head to the International Space Station and the rescue mission that has just been completed. I can tell you that not a lot was achieved around the broadcasting floor here at Rema Media for about the last 45 minutes because the rescue pod, courtesy of SpaceX, bringing back some astronauts who thought they were going out for an 8 to 9 day trip that turned into a 9-month journey, finally having been resolved.
As far as I understand it as well, Andrew, they spent the longest time in space unplanned.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah, so not the longest time spent in space, but certainly not aware that this was going to be the length of time that they were away. Somebody has to mow the lawn, somebody has to...
Well, yeah. You see, this is the fascinating component in all this, right? In that you imagine if you said to Christy, hey, love, I've got to go away for work for a week.
Yep.
And she'd be like, well, obviously I'll miss you, but, that's fine. A week is all right. And then you have to call her back and be like, oh, look, unexpected. It's going to be an extra week. That would already be bad enough, I would imagine.
Yeah, I imagine there'd be conversations.
Yeah. And then if you had to say, sorry, did I say week? What I meant was month. Did I say month? I meant 3 months. Did I say 3? I meant 9. I'm pretty sure my wife would have burnt this place down if that had happened.
Yeah, I reckon, though, there's got to be some sort of understanding if your spouse is an astronaut.
Well, and I think
this
one
could
of them,
happen.
Yeah, I think some of them actually have partners who work at NASA as well.
Right.
So you would expect there to be a measure of understanding there. But we thought we'd bring you a little bit of footage, first and foremost, from the moment that the rescue mission arrived at the space station. These people having been stuck there for a series of months. And how did they respond? Well, courtesy of The Independent, we have a little bit of video footage. I don't know if they can hear the same music that we're listening to right now, but you can see people jumping on and, there's hugs all around, the universal language of greeting. People flying in space. Look at that hair, though. Woo!
Yeah, what must it feel like to see, after so many months, new people?
Yeah, it'd be wild.
Oh, man, and just to feel, the touch of another human being, and just even simple stuff like that we maybe take for granted. It's crazy.
It is indeed. So we just played the moment then that the astronauts were reunited with, other human beings. I suppose they did have each other. It's not like they couldn't.
That's true.
If they wanted to hug somebody, I mean, they could have done. But does it just get a bit weird?
Yeah, but it's your colleague.
I suppose so. That's a fair point. They're not always in the same category, are they? What we also have, though, courtesy of NASA, was the moment that the capsule re-entered and splashed down. So if you're not on the stream right now, you've got about 12 seconds to load it up. Josh, how do they find it?
Super simple. Head to rema.co.nz. You can find us on both YouTube or Facebook. Once you get there, the live stream, pretty obvious. And do not forget to leave a comment.
Do not unre-forget.
Leave that comment below.
All right, so here we go. This is
400 meters.
beep, 400 meters away.
It was a gorgeous bluebird day here that we have for the splashdown of Crew 9.
A bluebird day? Isn't that
It's
where you get
incredible
potato
to
chips?
think that the Dragon capsule just minutes ago was going over 17,000 miles per hour and now gently coasting to a soft splashdown.
200.
Copy, 200 meters. Brace for splashdown.
Wow. Gosh, don't human beings do incredible stuff?
Also, just imagine going from
As you
that
can see there
speed
on your screen,
to
continuing monitor
that slow
progress
speed.
of
Like,
Yeah.
the
how
Dragon
fast did she say they were going? Like,
17,000 miles an hour.
To this gentle little
Apparently they were still going about 100 k's an hour by the time they hit the water.
Wow.
Isn't that something?
Tallahassee, Florida.
Here we go, and 3, 2, 1.
And splashdown.
Sploosh.
Crew 9 back on Earth.
There we go. Now, of course, this stream itself is still going right now. The crew have officially disembarked in about the last 12 minutes or so. No doubt they'll have some medical checks and so on that they have to conduct. But, I mean, just incredible stuff.
By the way, if you're watching that live stream, you shouldn't be. You should be watching our live stream because our live stream includes their live stream.
It's live streamception.
Yeah.
It's their stream within a stream.
Then again, if you're watching their live stream, you're probably not watching
Our stream.
live stream.
Which in case you're missing out, because our stream has their live stream.
But if you are listening,
That's right.
you can be watching the stream.
That's right. So with all that said, fascinating story to watch. I'm sure there'll be more on that one waking news in the next little while, but we move on.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Now, this one we head to one of the premier news services in the country. One that we love reminding is the number 2. We're number 2. We're number 2. We're number 2. Stuff.co.nz. And what captures the interest most on Stuff? I think the thing that I'm really starting to appreciate about Stuff is, dare I say, they would hate me saying this, how tabloidy they are. Like the stuff.
Go on, Andrew.
Go on. The stuff that ends up really popular on Stuff.
The stuff on Stuff.
The stuff on Stuff is often, shall we say, of the more light and fluffy variety, more clickbaity perhaps.
Clickbaity news, eh? Is that what you're referencing?
No, I would never reference that, Josh. Why on earth? The number 1 story, Gemma McCaw. Famous, of course, for marrying who, Josh?
Richie McCaw.
Yay! And
I didn't actually know that, but of course, McCaw. So
well, that's right, because she was famous in her own right before marrying him because she
Hockey?
Oh, well done. All right. I thought I was throwing you under the bus there, but well played. Yes, she appeared and was talking to Sam Hayes about why her kids don't watch TV. Now, you might think, so? I mean, really? Well, this was the number one. This is the most popular story on stuff.co.nz.
Yeah, by the way, so this is trending if you've just tuned in. So we're going back through the week that was, looking at the most popular trending stories from Google search results. But this on Stuff, as Andrew just said, was the most clicked on over the week that was. Gemma McCaw saying she doesn't let her kids watch TV.
One little observation too before we go to the clip itself. How long do you think this conversation went without looking? Do you have any idea?
I actually don't.
Like, how long do you think you could possibly talk to Gemma
3
McCaw
minutes.
about why? 3 minutes?
Surely.
That's reasonable, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah. 16 minutes. 16 minutes. So with that said, let's dive into the first minute and see how much we can stomach. This is the number one most popular news story on stuff.co.nz, at least over the last few days.
Joining me now in the studio is Gemma McCaw. Kia ora, Gemma. So, of course, you're a former Black Sticks hockey player, Olympian, and a very busy mum. But can you give me a little bit of a life update about what you're busy with at the moment?
Yeah, morena, Sam. So nice to be here and see you. Well, life with 3 kids is busy.
Yeah.
We've made, some big life changes, I think. We moved to the beautiful Wanaka from Christchurch.
It's so nice down there.
It is beautiful. Yeah, we've been really lucky. We wanted to raise the kids in the outdoors, and it was a place, for Rich to come home to Central
Because Christchurch famously has no outdoors.
Otago. So that's been a really big life change and adjustment, but our kids are doing really well. So we've got that, and that means just work and life, is different at the moment, and that's okay. It's just been a really great opportunity for a new chapter to begin.
Yeah.
And, I'm still doing some speaking, engagements when I can, and also doing my Ladies Who Venture, which is taking women into the outdoors. So igniting the passion for the outdoors and connection of women coming together from all walks of life.
So lots of different chapters going on in your life, and as you say, a new chapter with the move to Wanaka. So we're actually here today to talk about something that we've discovered is a really shared passion that we both have, and that is books and reading. And you kind of managed to intertwine this with the other things that...
I can't do it anymore. I can't do it. That was just inane blather, is what that was.
Look, you know what I pick out?
What's that?
I understand the desire to have kids who grow up away from television, as we didn't even get to in that video, by the way.
I was sitting there thinking, are they going to get to that question? And I realised this is some kind of a clickbait headline. And somewhere in the next 16 minutes, this is actually going to be addressed.
But she's talking about, raising the kids outdoors. Look, I want to say, great, understand it. Almost, I'd say, pretty much for it.
Yeah.
The one thing that irks me...
Ooh, here we go.
She's obviously got a bit of wealth.
Yep.
You're married to Richie McCaw. You yourself, obviously...
You've done all right.
Pro athlete, exactly.
Yeah, done all right.
You have the ability afforded to you to do that very easily, to move to somewhere
like Wanaka as well, which is not the cheapest place in the world to live.
Yeah, when I think of, myself and my wife having children, we do not have that ability afforded to us. How are we going to act when it is not like, let's just have a monstrous backyard that you can go frolic and play with?
Is this not just a bit of tall poppy syndrome, though, Josh? A little bit of sour grapes, perhaps?
Not so much tall poppy syndrome, just like, are you a little bit out of touch with the reality of the situation going, I don't let my children watch TV?
Yeah. Actually, I would love to know from people if they've had similar rules, because I know plenty of parents who, particularly before they had a child, had grand designs on, my children will never look at a screen until they're 25. And then at some point they're like, just look at this. Boom, drop an iPad on them. Exactly. And then, that's where it goes from there. So
then again, let's be honest here.
Yep.
Neither of us are parents.
But that's why we're so clear-eyed about this, Josh.
Oh, yes, right. That's why we're
not biased.
We haven't been marred.
Marred by our children.
So I was thinking maybe some parents should get in touch and maybe give us a bit of perspective on this. 8168 with the keyword Rima if you are listening, or of course if you are watching the chat. feel free to leave a comment below.
On what? What they should do about screens with their kids? Or?
Yeah, just like what you reckon. Do you reckon it's actually even possible in a normal situation to raise children without screens?
And I would also like to know, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being absolutely fundamental to my existence and 1 being not even slightly, how influential to your parenting strategies is Gemma McCaw's perspective?
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
It sounds like I'm being deliberately unkind to Gemma McCaw. It's not. It's more just the fact that we tend to, elevate certain people and say, like, this person is notable for some reason. How do you live your life? And I'm like, no. If I was going to be a professional hockey player,
That's
Gemma McCaw.
That's what I was trying to get to, and maybe I didn't articulate myself well enough. But 100%
Not at all.
where it's
Horrifically
like,
articulated,
hey,
Josh.
Hey,
You sound like a massive hater. Yeah, I'd talk to her about being a hockey player. I mean, it's what we do with celebrities, isn't it? It's like, wow, you're really good in the movies. Tell me how to, I don't know.
you get a platform.
Yep.
Therefore, whatever you say must be gold.
It's called the halo effect, everybody. Look it up. In the meantime,
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
it's a segue within a segue. Now we're heading to the wider Google trend. So if you head into Google, search for anything, there is actually a record of the most popular search terms in the country. We're about to look at number 7.
Sorry, just have to go to a text that has come through from Rachel. You asked for a grade of, 0 to 10.
Yep.
Yeah, Rachel's come with the -1.
-1. So that means you're more likely to now get your children to look at screens thanks to Gemma McCall's advice.
Thank you, Rachel.
Your kids are about to all get an iPad for Christmas, their own Netflix subscriptions, 50-inch LCD screens in every bedroom. Thanks, Gems. Speaking of adolescence, though.
Sorry. Ooh, this is a hard pivot now from what we were talking about to what we're about to talk about.
Well, you see, is it such a hard pivot? Adolescence on Netflix is trending right now, the number 7 trending search term in the country. In other words, people going into Google, and this was the thing they were the 7th most likely to be searching for information about. Interestingly, actually, Andrew Urquhart, in his show just before us, actually spoke to somebody about this particular TV series.
I feel like there needs to be a clarification made. This is, as you just said, a Netflix 4-part series.
Yep.
We're not talking about adolescents watching Netflix.
No, well, that's right. And so what could happen if your child spends too much time on the internet or maybe starts having a rough time at school? This is kind of like nightmare fuel, I think, this series.
This is not kind of like nightmare fuel. This is like I'm not for maybe trigger warnings too often, but this one I would say like just there's some sensitivity around this show and the topics it covers.
So look, we've got
Be ready.
Yeah, we've got a snippet from the trailer we're going to play out for you right now. So again, if you want to watch along with us, join us on the live stream. Go to rema.co.nz. There's a link to the Facebook Live and YouTube sites there. But we'll take a quick look at this first and then see what conversation it sparks.
That's police! What are you looking for? You're making a big mistake. He's only a kid.
Dad, I haven't done anything.
Ooh, we got SWAT teams breaking into houses, everyone.
He's a good kid. Jamie, I want you to listen carefully.
What's going on?
I'm going to start off with asking you.
Do you know a girl called Katie Leonard? Yeah? Describe each other as friends then.
Is she dead then?
Why would you ask her?
And that's how it starts. That's how it starts. Admittedly, you can tell how much of this is designed to freak you out because I'm pretty sure even if you were suspecting of a child being involved in, well, the scenario we're about to unpack for you, you wouldn't need to send a fully armed SWAT team to their house. Pretty confident.
That's a fair point.
If your intended victim is the wrong word.
Target,
perhaps, yeah, is an adolescent, as can be determined from the name of said series. I don't know if you need 19 men with semi-automatic machine guns.
Look, Andrew, you make a fair point. You make a fair point. This is a new Netflix series which is doing rather well.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot of people searching for it. That's why it's cropped up here in trending. It's also been rated quite highly in terms of even just the cinematography, but the subject matter is certainly the focus for a lot of people.
Yeah, the long story short here, and this is a synopsis that's popped up online too. It's a cautionary tale about getting teenagers off screens and engaging with real life again. We need Jim and McCaw. A reminder that human contact and family time might help save them. It's a plea to support, talk and listen, not let them fall through the cracks and disappear down the digital rabbit hole. It will open conversations that desperately need to be had. That's a perspective that came via The Guardian in the UK.
Wait, Andrew.
Yep.
Let's actually just go to the headline of said article where that synopsis comes from.
Go for it.
Because I'm very interested to get your opinion on this. Unnervingly on the nose, why Adolescence is such a powerful TV show that could save lives.
Right. So what is it that you think is particularly noteworthy in that headline?
Well, it's a big claim. That's a mighty claim to make.
That is a mighty claim. Yes, in fact, we'll bring it up now for those of you who are on the stream. This is on The Guardian. We've got it here. Unnervingly on the nose. Yes. Could it save lives? This does feel like the kind of self-congratulatory nonsense that people in the media tell themselves about the impact of their own work. Is that too blunt? So this was too inspired by a true story. Again, a story of a young girl who was stabbed to death by a 14-year-old boy. She was 12, he was 14. This, again, dramatizes that concept. It's not a direct retelling of this story, but again, at the risk of kind of giving away some of the storyline to it, this is kind of what it seeks to unpack. Perhaps what happens when children experience bullying and isolation and...
Well, a lot of it is also focused on the rhetoric around the loss of the man in pop culture that is being touted by a lot of influencers and that narrative which was being pushed by people like Andrew Tate and a lot of young adolescent boys grabbing onto that, believing this to be the ultimate narrative that then they need to fulfill in various and sometimes, as we see here, violent ways.
Okay, so here's a real question. Would you want to watch this?
No, not in the slightest.
No. Hard no. You know what this is? I've heard this term used before, so forgive the crassness perhaps of it. It's torture porn. It's when you have, sometimes... Our confirmation biases work in funny ways. If you want to believe the world is a horrible place, it's like people who really enjoyed, what was the show with the girls in the red cloaks that was all like...
Handmaid's Tale.
The Handmaid's Tale. It's like, yes, they're all coming for our rights. That's what they're doing. And then you watch a fictionalized, see, that's what it's going to look like. And it's not going to look like that in a million years. But, people are like, well, that's where we're all heading. And we're not heading that way at all.
Yeah, but we want to have these types of conversations and right this wrong and...
Yeah, but is this really about trying to have a conversation?
Well, that's what I think is not the case.
Yeah.
But they would like it to be.
Well, like you mentioned, this show could save lives.
Again, massive claim.
Massive. I mean, that could save lives. Could is doing a lot of heavy lifting in that sentence.
I hope Trending one day can
one day unpack what's going on with that.
I thought could get that moniker maybe.
Maybe at this point we have to call the show Triggered. Far out.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
So let's continue to look at other stories that were particularly popular in the country, and let's talk food subscription services. Have you ever considered signing up to one of those, meal delivery services and thought, my goodness, these prices are criminal? Well, you might be more correct than you think. Number 12 in the country over the last week, HelloFresh, because they are naughty people.
They are indeed. By the way, Irene would like to know on the Facebook page whether or not we're working with NASA and X. Maybe we gave them a little bit too much time, she thinks.
It's a fair point. Get a bit of a kickback, do you think? Ooh. Get a free Tesla out of it? It was SpaceX.
That's true. Are we allowed to show their live stream on our live stream? We did it anyway, and...
Not sorry. Not sorry. We'll do it again.
Thanks for watching, by the way, Irene.
Yeah, appreciate it. Would you want a Tesla too, by the way? They seem to be the targets of some really mentally unstable people right now.
This is a fair point.
Have you seen this in the US?
No. What's going on?
So people are basically targeting Tesla dealerships in protest of Elon Musk.
Oh.
And then also vandalizing Tesla vehicles that are out and about, owned by private citizens. But clearly anyone who owns a Tesla is 100% aligned on every matter with Elon Musk.
Interesting, by the way, that this is not trending.
That is a good point. Maybe we don't have enough Teslas in New Zealand just yet.
I feel like we have way too many.
That's a fair
I've
point.
seen too many.
In the meantime, coming back to what we should have done, unless you've got thoughts on this as well, which you're always welcome to send through to us.
8168 with the keyword Rima via the text, or of course, if you are watching like Irene, feel free to leave a comment below.
It turns out then that HelloFresh, well, there are subscription traps and criminal charges filed against HelloFresh. The Commerce Commission has filed criminal charges. The meal kit service allegedly misled consumers in cold calls to reactivate the subscriptions.
How? How are you on the line with HelloFresh?
Would you not unwant to restart your...
right.
And you're like, yes. Oh, wait, what's going on? Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And because they've already got your information, but you've cancelled, they've just ticked a box.
Ticked a box, and then it's back coming your way once again. Now, the Commission is alleging the meal kit misled customers. It claims that it relates to conduct between February 22 and July 23, when previous customers were offered a discount voucher without it being made clear that the acceptance of the voucher would reactivate their subscription.
Oh.
Naughty.
That's tricky. That's naughty indeed.
Highly dubious. Have you ever used one of these?
Well, look, here's what I would say. As a personal consumer of a Wonky Box, not HelloFresh.
What is Wonky Box for those who don't know?
I'm all for Wonky Box.
What is it though?
Okay, so Wonky Box is a box of fruit and veg that, for whatever reason, has been deemed unfit to sell in regular supermarkets, usually simply because it's misshapen.
Yeah, so it's not aesthetically pleasing.
Exactly. Which, who on God's green earth cares?
Well, you see, you say that, but that's a great example of stated preference versus revealed preference. We say we don't care how it looks, and then the supermarkets find they don't sell the ugly stuff.
Well, that's true. If you've got the option for the aesthetically pleasing...
You take the...
Yeah, exactly.
Who amongst us hasn't gone through a massive mound of vegetables or fruit and just tried to find the ideal specimen?
Squeezing avocados. Tapping on watermelons.
Yeah, exactly. So, but you're an advocate for the Wonky Box.
We have a regular subscription to the Wonky Box in our household. It means we eat a lot more fruit and veg.
Nice.
It's a lot cheaper. I'm all for Wonky Box. Not a paid sponsorship by any means. Just for...
Unless you'd like it to be Wonky Box.
Hey!
Unless you'd like it to be.
You get in touch.
We are open to sponsorship of this show. Yeah, but I mean, I've never signed up for... reasons of price and efficiency as well. I think you're certainly paying the convenience tax on a service like this. And I think people who sign up broadly, and at least those who do so consensually, are doing so in the awareness that, look, if I went and bought all this stuff myself, I'm sure it'd be cheaper. But this way it comes to me, I don't have to think about it, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. So all for that. But to find out that criminal charges are being filed, oops. Do you think, look, here's the thing.
Oops.
As much as this is a bad thing from HelloFresh, I can also see a world where some poor schmuck who was writing a script at a call center just didn't include it. Just didn't think about it, whatever it was. I'm usually more likely to assume incompetence than malice in a lot of cases.
Interesting.
So, I mean, it just seems...
From a corporation?
I mean, it's so blatantly illegal that I feel like
it's more likely they made a mistake.
Yeah. I mean, look, they're still liable. I'm not saying it's okay. Like, you can break the law accidentally and you've still broken the law. But I just feel like it's the kind of line or emphasis you could miss. Because these guys, again, the people who are working at the call center, I don't have a vested interest in
They're just
HelloFresh
following the
anyway.
script.
They're just reading stuff. I've worked in call centers before.
Well, they do have a bit of a vested... Well, you correct me if I'm wrong then, having worked in a call center, because you get kickback for the more you do? No.
Nah.
Oh, no.
Nah, a lot of them you don't. Nah, you'll be
As
working...
long as you put in the time.
Yep.
Oh.
Yep. I mean, they might have like the commission-based structure. I mean, you imagine for this, right? What are they doing? They're giving away a voucher to somebody to reactivate. I mean, what's the dollar value that you'd put on that you would then derive a commission from? Like $5? Like if that? Like it'd be...
I have no idea, really.
Yeah. It's not huge. And you would, if you're working at a call center, you could be working for 5 different companies that week.
Oh, right.
You're not just... It's not the HelloFresh call center.
Yeah,
it's just a bunch of plebs. It's a bunch of uni students who have just been handed this week's script and be like, have at it, lad. And then you have a few guys, a bit cavalier, skip over a few lines, and then suddenly your company's in legal trouble. Or am I being a little bit too charitable towards them today? What do you guys reckon?
8168 with the keyword Rima to get in touch. Actually, we did get a text that has come through, rather big one, so give us some time. This actually goes back to our conversation about screens.
Yes.
Of course, kids cannot completely go without screens. They are everywhere, including the classroom. But what is absolutely possible is removing them from there every day.
Okay.
Don't use them as a babysitter. Teach your kids to play, to be bored, and to make their own fun. See, preschoolers especially addicted to screens. Seeing preschoolers, addicted to screens is so sad. Nobody actually attached their name to that text, but if that was you listening or watching right now, thank you for your input.
Great message. Hey, look, if you've got more thoughts on that, then keep firing them through. We can always accommodate your thoughts on kids and screens, or even adults and screens.
Goodness me, let's have that conversation. Mine's right here.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Multi-screening it. I have 3, 4, 5 screens in front of me right now, in fact.
You're the worst.
I'm the worst, and not just for this reason. Let's now move to The Guardian in the UK, and this did make me scratch my head. I don't know what they were thinking and why they decided this was the man to speak to, but the White House has maybe decided to try and strengthen ties with Ireland, possibly in the wake of St. Patrick's Day, also occurring over the last week. And so naturally, when you think of international ambassadors and those people who portray Ireland in the best possible light, I would generally think of somebody who's convicted of a civil sex assault trial, General Loudmouth and Hooligan.
By the way, the reason we are talking about this is the show Trending. We're looking at the trending stories from the week that was. This was number 2 trending on The Guardian. And as you said, Andrew, baffling.
Conor McGregor is the one we're talking about. And the number 2 story on The Guardian in the UK, Conor McGregor anti-immigration rant in the White House condemned by the Irish Prime Minister. I mean, remarkable that if you would consider from the White House's perspective, how hard would it have been to get the Irish Prime Minister?
Why? What? A convicted felon. Recently...
Well, he's not, so because it was a civil trial, technically not a convicted felon.
Oh, sorry. My apologies.
Yes.
But we most recently talked about Conor McGregor on this very show because of that case, which was also trending.
Yeah.
To now see him appearing...
in the White House.
In the White House.
I don't get it. And look, his broader persona, if you haven't followed the UFC, you will not be... There are people who in the UFC are actually very articulate and intelligent human beings. It might shock you to know that if you don't follow the UFC. Conor McGregor is not one of these guys. He is every cartoonish caricature of an Irish person you can imagine.
But, like, by choice.
Yeah. So anyway, rather than just speculating on what it was that he said, here is an excerpt from this particular press conference conducted at the White House and Conor McGregor.
For sure. I'm here to raise the issues that people of Ireland face, you know, and it'll be music to the people of Ireland's ears, because never on the main stage has the issues the people of Ireland face been spoke. You know, our government has long since abandoned the voices of the people of Ireland, and it's high time that America is made aware of what is going on in Ireland. What is going on in Ireland is a travesty. Our government is the government of zero action with zero accountability. You know, our money is being spent on overseas issues that has nothing to do with the Irish people. The illegal immigration racket is running ravage on the country. There are rural towns in Ireland that have been overrun in one swoop, that have become a minority in one swoop. So issues need to be addressed, and the 40 million Irish Americans, as I said, need to hear this, because if not, there will be no place to come home and visit. You know, Ireland is at the cusp of, you know, potentially losing its Irishness, and I'm here to raise the issue and highlight it. You know, it's also St. Patrick's Day, so a little bit of celebrations for sure, and, you know, a little bit of learning and listening to Mr. President Trump, whose work ethic is inspiring, and all that does to me is highlight the lack of work on my side. So that's it. That's what I'm here for.
Awesome. Thank you.
This is where I feel slightly conflicted, because again, Conor is not my favourite person in the world. You may have detected it does reflect a wider conversation being had around immigration and the effects thereof. I know the US itself is having conversations around this and the nature of illegal immigration. But throughout Europe, one of the primary influences on politics moving more right-wing, and this is throughout Europe, has been the immigration debate. And this is something that Conor McGregor is raising the issue of right here. Again, said that Ireland is in the cusp. This is fascinating. Ireland is on the cusp of losing its Irishness.
And is that about its people? Is that what he's talking about? That there are too many non-Irish in Ireland?
Well, I believe so.
Trying to open up his thinking rather than my own.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly what he's saying. I mean, he also mentioned an illegal immigration racket that was running ravage, I think he meant rampant, on the country.
I think he was doing a very good job of not being typical Conor McGregor and using expletives.
That's a good point.
Quite often.
Yeah, there was that. I'm sure even those who were involved in inviting him were kind of holding their breath during that. But this idea, though, and it is a bit of a thorny one for some, this idea of how a country becomes more or less Irish, Scottish, New Zealand, dare I say. There are countries in the world, for example, like, say, China, that will protect its cultural identity very strongly. And if they come out and say, hey, we're trying to protect our Chinese cultural values, Hungary's done similar things that some people applauded, Poland doing the same thing. But there is a tinge of, I don't know, discomfort when, if I try and really kind of call a spade here, a white majority culture says we're losing our cultural identity because people who don't like us are coming here with different cultural values. Are you allowed, as a nation, to take steps to preserve what you believe is the original cultural identity of that country?
If you have thoughts on this matter, it's a big one for sure. Feel free to get in touch, though, 8168 with the keyword REMA. Or, of course, if you're watching the live stream, we would love to hear your comment. Just leave it below.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Surprised you didn't want to dive in on that one, Josh. Did you not want to just, chime in with your thoughts there?
Hey, I thought let's put it to the people.
He just let the bus go past, but don't worry, Josh, there's a second bus. A second bus coming with
just
your
in case
name
you
on
wanted
it.
that opportunity.
Exactly. Let's now, though, head to the US.
Oh, look, the bus is gone.
There's a third one, Josh. It's amazing. It's like this is a bus creation engine. Heading to the CNN now for their number one story. And again, the purpose of the show is to shine a light on the stories that have captured interest not just in New Zealand, but around the world. And somewhat related here, number one on CNN. And this one is of a deported Brown University doctor acknowledging that she attended the Hezbollah leader's funeral on a visit to Lebanon. Now,
okay. You're going to have to unpack this for me, Andrew, because I've got to admit I'm very much unaware of what has happened in this regards. I'm pretty sure, though, I'm not the only one. So for me and for the listenership, the viewership,
sure.
What on earth are you talking about? All
right. So the discussion that's being had in the US right now is that there are those who have US citizenship, right? So you're a US citizen, and that is one category of, staying within the US. You can also be a green card holder, which is kind of like a permanent resident to, the New Zealand mind. So you're not a citizen of the country, but you do have permission to live there, work there, whatever it might be.
You're granted pretty much all the rights of a normal citizen.
More or less, yeah. However, what's been happening over the last little while is that President Trump's administration has been cracking down on people who have been living in the US, but have also been indulging in, I guess, what you could call anti-American sentiment. So, for example, expressing outward support of an organization like, say, Hamas or Hezbollah. These are organizations that are defined as terrorist organizations by the United States government. And therefore, if you are in the country at the good graces of that state, that nation rather, but then are seen to be aligned with those who will openly say, we want to overthrow this country, we want death to America, or whatever it is, should then that nation have the right to expel you. Now, what makes this a broader conversation is that the issue of free speech has been brought up. In that, in the United States, for example, you can still be a member of the KKK. You can.
I shouldn't laugh, but my gosh.
You can be a member of the KKK. You can have a white power bumper sticker. you can be driving around in your, Casper the Ghost outfit or whatever it might look like. And that is perfectly legal. And no repercussions shall befall you.
Because those organizations are not counted as
terrorist organizations.
American.
Well, so here's the thing. There is a distinction, and this is one of the arguments that's been made by, say, the Trump administration on this front, is that there is a distinction between being a citizen, which means you are protected by the Constitution of the United States, versus being a green card holder, which basically means you are their guest. Also, it's been pointed out that these people, if you were looking to come into the United States, or even New Zealand for that matter, if you were being interviewed and saying, so, Mr. Beatty, tell us about yourself, what are your interests, what are your affections? And you said, well, I'm a huge supporter of Hamas, really big fan of Hezbollah, believe in their mission to obliterate Israel. You'd be like, I don't think you can come into our country either. Like, you'd be stopped at the border. There's no way.
Yeah.
Absolutely no way they'd let you into the country if you said that you were a huge fan of, any of those organizations. However, these guys, having been within the nation of the United States, and in this case, a Brown University assistant professor and doctor, who ended up getting deported because federal agents found photos of them with Hassan Nasrallah, the, former leader of Hezbollah. He's no longer the leader because he was killed. But that was enough for them to say, well, if you're affiliated with Hezbollah, you cannot stay in the United States. Goodbye.
Because this person also went to the funeral, is that correct?
Yeah, correct.
So the distinction being made is, and excuse me, the ability to, it's very easy to bar the entry. It is much more difficult to uproot an already existing, not citizen, but green card holder.
Sure. And of course, in some of these cases too, there's another case of a student who has also got Hamas sympathies, who's being in the process of being deported right now. He has a wife who I believe is also pregnant or may have already had a child of theirs and is pregnant with a second one. But he's being deported now anyway. And people are saying, how can you deport a father of, children and deprive them of their father and that sort of thing? Quite frankly, if I'm deporting a terrorist sympathizer, I don't care how many children you have. How's that for between the eyes?
Yeah.
Yeah. You don't want to take this bus as well, Josh? This one's got your name on it as well. Do you have thoughts on this as well? I mean, again, this is part of a wider discussion that's being had about cultural identity around the world, and I think we're going to see more and more of this. We are kind of reading between the lines of what's been happening through Europe, what we heard with Conor McGregor's speech, what's happening in the US. I think one contingent starting to acknowledge that there are people groups around the world whose culture and values are not compatible with what you call a broadly Western democratic mindset, a Judeo-Christian worldview, for those who, narrow it down in those particular terms. And therefore, we owe it to the people of our own nation to remove those who do not align with it. But to what extent you can do that and then maintain the integrity of your own systems, I suppose, is the question that's being asked.
Yeah, because then the other question, I imagine, is what is the extent that you can choose whether or not this person is deemed unfit to be a part of our society, culture, because we do not align with their viewpoint. It seems when we're talking about terrorists, pretty easy to distinguish.
If you got a picture of the former leader of Hezbollah, see you later.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Back to New Zealand now, and boy, are we covering ground today. I love it. I love it. And this is all because of the activity of people just like yourself online reading the stories that matter the most to them. So what a picture of the world that we are gathering today. Back down to New Zealand, and this one, I would love to know your thoughts, maybe in terms of favourability, yay or nay. How do you feel about Christopher Luxon?
You know what? Let's just do it exactly like that. If you're watching the stream right now,
love it.
Or if you're listening via your radio, text on in if you're listening, 8168 keyword REMA. And then just give us a yay or a nay in terms of Chris Luxon. If you are viewing, yay or nay below in the comments.
That's right. Yay, favourable. Nay, not so favourable. And this has been brought up by some work that's been done on the spin-off. We do love checking out the spin-off every now and then. But they have an article that was the #1 on their website, even as far back as the 17th of this week. So still quite popular even today. Luxon's epic unpopularity in one chart. So how unpopular are we talking? Well, they've provided a chart thanks to Talbot Mills Research. And I brought it up on the live stream now for those of you who are watching along with us. But you can see a broad net favourability in regards to, former Prime Ministers of New Zealand. We can see Jacinda Ardern, for example, between about 55 and 60% for much of her first term. It dropped quite heavily before COVID kicked back in and bumped her back up over the 60s. We also have people like, say, Sir John Key, who, although he tailed off a little bit, he still, floated around the 50% mark. Even Helen Clark.
She had some highs and lows, didn't she?
She did. She was up in the 50s and then down to the 20s and then, again, settled back around the 50% mark. Rarefied air, though, between them and one Christopher Luxon, who has sat at a net negative favourability rating for almost his entire term.
Wow. And that maybe is also indicative of the text we're getting.
Really?
3 nays thus far.
3 nays on Luxon. Wow. I mean, having said that, I shouldn't be shocked. People are actually already starting to say whether or not he'll be rolled as the leader of the National Party, which would be a remarkable thing to do for a sitting government in its first term.
Yeah.
To be so...
Would that be unprecedented? Have we had any moment like that happen previously?
I don't know if we have. I think that might be the first. That might well be the first time that, a sitting Prime Minister in his first term is unseated. I mean, at this point, he's not quite halfway through his first term as well.
If you are unseated,
yep.
Does that also remove you as Prime Minister? Or do you remain Prime Minister if you're not the leader of your party?
Oh, that's true. I mean, I guess technically you can be. I suppose when I say unseated, these terms are important. I'm quibbling over details, but basically what I'm saying is yes, if he's removed as Prime Minister, if they find somebody else to take over.
I see.
Yeah, that is basically what they're looking at right now. What do you think it is about him?
I don't know.
Yeah. I would say he struggles to inspire confidence.
He is look. I don't want to say that charisma is the most important thing in any world leader, but it certainly has a factor.
Yep.
And I'm not saying that this is certainly the
Don't water it down, just both barrels,
He's not
Josh.
very charismatic.
That is true. And he tends to fumble media interviews. I mean, very recently, the Mike Hosking interview, or even Mike Hosking, who is one of the bluest of blue broadcasters in terms of his political affections, no one will die wondering if he'd ever vote for the Labour Party, except under maybe apocalyptic circumstances.
Yeah.
Even he was like, mate, you've made a meal of this. Straight to Luxon's face.
What about the fact that Winston didn't even come to him with the firing of Phil Goff, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm not so wound up about that. I mean, there are certain things that you can argue are just within the remit of the Minister of Foreign Affairs. And if you're going to make the call, you make the call. Phil Goff also is a former Labour Party guy, so it's not like maybe he was appointed as a pat on the back from the National Party for time served. That kind of thing does happen, of course.
It's a fair point.
Yeah.
It just seemed again in that moment, from my vantage point, he was like, yep, okay, this has happened.
Yeah.
And we're just getting on board.
Yeah. So look, continue to get your votes in on this one, this Snap Rima trending news poll. You have to give it a fancy title. Rima Media
Poll of the Nation.
Poll Insight Research Foundation on Christopher Luxon. Yay or nay? Get your votes in either via the text or via the stream.
8168 with the keyword REMA, RHEMA. Or, of course, if you're watching the stream, if you want to watch, by the way, rema.co.nz, then just leave a comment below.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
Got time for a couple more stories today, and now moving back into the Google search trends. So this is the story that was the number 4 most popular in the country. In terms of people searching away, a bit curious as well, because number 4 was St. Patrick's Day 2025, only to be followed by St. Patrick's Day.
I guess they specifically wanted to know more about this St. Patrick's Day?
Yeah, were there those who say, look, I want to know about St. Patrick's Day, but any St. Patrick's Day is fine. I'm not really worried.
Or did they first Google St. Patrick's Day?
Ooh.
Didn't have enough immediate information about that day, so they went St. Patrick's Day 2025.
No, because intuitively then you would have had more searches for St. Patrick's Day than St. Patrick's 2025. Like, it's very unlikely you search St. Patrick's 2025 and then also just search St. Patrick's Day. You would do it the other way around. So the number of people who you'd get searching the longer search term would be less.
I believe you, but I haven't grappled it in my brain.
All right, let me see if I can walk this through in the next 12 seconds so it makes sense, all right?
Okay,
So I've got questions about St. Patrick's Day, right?
Yeah.
So I just typed that in.
Mm-hmm.
There's a certain number of people to which that is the answer to their search.
Right.
That's all they wanted. So they stopped there.
Oh, but there would be far fewer.
There would be less. There would just be less. Not necessarily even far fewer. There would just be less who would then feel the need for a second search with a longer term.
Right, because...
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, cool. Yep,
Yeah.
I got it.
There you go. You get across the line. You're welcome, New Zealand. But
I'm
yes,
so sorry for my incompetence.
number 4, though, St. Patrick's Day 2025. And we've got a little clip here with thousands gathering in Dublin with the St. Patrick's Parade and a few vox pops with the crowd. So let's quickly check in what was going on in Ireland for St. Patrick's Day celebrations.
I think it's just the atmosphere of the day and celebrating the culture of Ireland. It's great to see people of all different corners of the world getting together, celebrating Irish culture and being in Dublin all together. Nothing beats it. I've been doing it for the guts of nearly 27 years, and it's great to see it every single year, celebrating the culture of Ireland all together.
So then we have all manner of things happening on the street. My sympathies too to anybody who has English as their second language and was trying to make sense of what that guy was saying. Not the easiest thing to follow. But Josh, in your research on this, you uncovered something unsettling, shocking, potentially devastating.
Well, I didn't know much about St. Patrick's Day. I like the fact, by the way, that St. Patrick is credited for introducing Christianity to Ireland in the 5th century. Found out a little bit more about that. But I also found that Irish culture and heritage experts previously have told USA Today that the holiday was a solemn and religious day until it arrived in America. And that is where it garnered its boozy reputation.
Interesting. So it was the USA that corrupted the Irish.
Yeah.
I mean, it seems to be that way.
I mean, look, that's exactly what
that's
they're
what
saying.
it is.
That's what
I'm
they're
not saying it. It's saying it there. The internet. I didn't say it. That's right there. Yeah, exactly.
Trending with Andrew Curtis.
And then the number 1 story, just a general curiosity, I suppose. Maybe people were looking for videos or photos online, but the number 1 story in the country over the last week, this is the one that everybody was Googling, that you probably had the easiest conversation bait with those that you work with, was Blood Moon, New Zealand.
Yeah, we had a lunar eclipse over the last week. I think mainly also people were just wondering what time, can I see it from where I am, yada, yada, yada. Me and my wife actually went out that evening.
Yep.
Had a little bit of, takeaways, found a nice spot, saw it up there. Although a while back when we had a blood moon, I went out, took a picture, chucked it up on the social media for one of our other stations, as mentioned before, Life FM.
Yep. Life FM, you said.
Yeah, Life FM. Yeah,
interesting.
Again,
okay.
I know you're not really
It's a bit
familiar.
of a startup, isn't it?
Yeah,
okay, sure.
Do check them out.
Yeah, I hope they do well.
Me too. I took a picture of it. A horrendous picture, right?
Yeah.
Because it was on my phone.
Yep.
And this is in space. And there's no way.
You were in space when you took it? Amazing.
I guess technically.
Actually, you're right. We're all in space right now.
Exactly.
Now
But
that you mention it.
I posted it up on the Facebook page. This thing went viral because everybody was just sharing their absolutely horrendous mobile phone photo of the blood moon, because for some reason, when some event like this happens, we feel the absolute need to photograph it, even though we're never going to look at that photo again, and we have not captured by any means the beauty, the majesty, the like, oh my gosh, look at that, now look at it through my screen. It's absolute crap.
But is it even that interesting to look at anymore? Like, I feel like blood moons seem to be a dime a dozen now. Like, a blood moon was kind of novel. But I'm up to my eyeballs in blood moons now. I'm like, yeah, we get it. It's a blood moon. Sure. All right.
By the way, off topic, but going to the text, we've got a nay that came through, but also says, great show, by the way. Thank you to that person. Also, though, Ross over on the stream saying yay. So evening it out a little bit.
Okay,
this
okay.
to do with, by the way, Chris Luxon.
We've got some Luxon fans in the chat. Thanks for joining us. You guys can battle it out if you like and see where you guys lay on particular issues.
Let's not make trending.
What?
That where we battle it out.
Oh, yes. Heaven forbid the internet should be a place where people battle out ideas, Josh. My goodness.
I thought we could be
different. Can you imagine?
I thought, Andrew, we could be a little different.
Well, Now you know better. So there you go. That was the number one story. Look, we had a broadcast from the US. I'm just going to play the first part of this, though, because this did tickle me.
We told you yesterday about the lunar eclipse. Well, they call it a blood moon because of that bright red, bloody kind of color there. So the grid.
Wow. I just did a journalism. They call it a blood moon because it's red.
No way.
No,
bro. No way.
No, but actually,
no way.
No, they call it, and then it's like the moon's in the sky, which is, by the way, up. Yeah, bro. I mean, look, who amongst us as a broadcaster has not had to try and pad some time on air?
Look, actually, fair.
And not just use the most inane references. I mean, you could have just talked about the weather instead, as I know you're a big fan of. Little weather waffle goes a long way, doesn't it?
Hate weather waffle.
He really does. He really does. Incidentally, by the way, weather was also trending this week, but we decided mercifully to omit it.
Spare you.
Not for your sake, but for Josh's. He can only take so much. He'd much rather talk about immigration and whether or not we should deport Hamas sympathizers. And on that note, would you believe time has flown, but we're out of time. We're going to stick around for a few minutes, in fact, after this on the live stream, so either on the YouTube or Facebook. So if you want to be a part of that with us, we'd just love to get your thoughts on some of these different stories that have popped up. You can either go to the rema.co.nz website, click through on the YouTube and Facebook links. Otherwise, we will catch you next week. What was your highlight from today, Josh?
Oh, it's got to be the impromptu Luxon poll.
Yeah.
Specifically, even more text still coming through. Just got a yay.
Just got a yay. So there we go, Chris. You've got a friend in us. Thanks for joining us for Trending on this, the 19th of March, 2025. We'll be back again next week to take a look at the stories that have captured the interest of people around the globe. We hope to see you then. Alrighty. Now that we've got rid of that lot, welcome to the post-show breakdown of everything. Yeah, a lot of thoughts on Chris Luxon then. So where are we at overall? Do we know what our net favorability is?
It's actually, I'm going to say, looking at the various text, it's pretty 50-50.
Really?
Which has been quite surprising.
Interesting.
I guess surprising, by the way, in terms of the poll that we looked at in the story being absolutely horrendous.
I mean, net favorability was, at about -5 or something like that, -10 if I have a look at this thing now. Oh, no, further than that. Most recent ones, maybe -17. So, there's that. It is fascinating too. If you look at that same poll, is this screen still up on the
yeah, I've got it up for you on the stream at the moment.
Do you remember this with Jacinda Ardern? She's the dark red line that you can see floating along. Very, very popular.
Can you zoom in slightly, actually, on the...
Here we go.
Yeah, there
How's
you
that?
go. And bring it across a little bit.
Can I do that? I don't know if I can.
Oh, all good. That's pretty...
What if I... Hang on. Let me try this. Oh, no. Yeah, no, it's just going to be that. Sorry about that.
This is the fascinating stuff you get on the live stream.
Exactly.
You just don't get this on here,
Yeah, not this kind of radio broadcasting gold. No, but looking at this right now, look at this Jacinda Ardern doing she was up in the 60s, which is actually pretty high for a PM favorability poll. And then, boom.
Yeah.
All the way down here, ended up in the, what would you say, the low 30s perhaps? And then I believe that spike it might have either been COVID-19 or the Christchurch mosque shootings. I remember somebody saying that Jacinda Ardern is kind of like a tea bag. She's only really good in hot water. She was great in a crisis, but kind of useless day to day.
Ooh. I don't know if I agree there, but she was great in a crisis.
She was great in a crisis. I mean, again, the way she handled that, broadly speaking, communicated a lot of love and compassion to people. The whole they are us kind of thing resonated with a lot of people, regardless of what you think of Jacinda. I know some of you don't like her. I get it. Calm down.
Everybody.
I'm just saying, if you connect with a lot of people, you've probably done pretty well as a prime minister, which incidentally is that Luxon's problem.
Does he need a crisis? Is that what you're saying?
Well, does he not connect? Possibly that as well. But does he not connect well enough with people? Do they not see him as the everyman?
Oh, he definitely does not come across, at least in my interpretation, as the everyman by all means.
You know what's funny though? Were you around when we did the interview with him for the last election? Because he came in in studio. He was one of the first people that we had. I had a chance to chat with him for about half an hour, and he was the best out of everybody about working the room up here.
Wow.
Yeah.
So is this maybe down to more the media coverage of him?
Media coverage, but I think also his media training. I think his media instincts aren't great. He doesn't seem to know. He's great with people, one-on-one. Again, I think he made the best impression out of anybody in terms of sticking around, talking to the wider Rima Media crew. But in terms of how well that comes across to everybody else, yeah.
By the way, so this is now the after show for
post-show,
Trending.
yeah.
So thank you for watching. If you still are, I can see quite a few people are still, actually. We had quite a few people pop up on the YouTube. Hi to you.
Lovely.
Also, if there's something that we covered, because we only have certain amounts of time to talk about these stories, and you wanted to know more about it, let us know. You could still put a comment below, and we could go back and answer any questions that you have. Feel free to still comment if you are still watching, which you can see quite a few people still are.
Brilliant. Yeah. Thanks for joining us. What else? Oh, I loved also our conversation at the start about, I do feel a little bit bad for her. But, Gemma McCaw.
Yeah.
And her thoughts on watching TV.
Ross would like you to give me another bus.
Oh, yeah, you want another bus? Oh, yeah.
I'm good.
That's a good point. So, Josh, immigrants, Muslim immigrants, what do you reckon?
Why? It's my job to have to read out the comments.
You're my fave. Ross, actually, to be honest, shout out to Ross, mate. You've been a follower
he's an
of the show for a
absolute
while.
legend.
You're a champ. Big fan of you. I'd hate you to miss that opportunity. Well, okay, let me put it another way that you might find easier to answer. Why is this hard to answer?
I think it is dripping in the concern that comes across when I hear a story like that is if I voice my opinion, I'm only going to inflame anger from a number of people.
Yep.
And as I try to exist in the world,
which you do exist in the world.
Thank you. As I try to exist with other human beings, I try to keep conversations and relationships, and especially as somebody who is now a broadcaster, I don't want to alienate people.
These are a lot of words to say. I'm a chronic people pleaser.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Yeah, one of us is not.
That is true. And that's what makes this show so good.
Yeah. I mean, it's funny. Look, nobody wants to be called a racist.
Is
the short version of it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to be called a racist. And if you say that there are people who erode our national identity, you are very quickly painted with the racist brush. And a racist right there.
I do genuinely have concern. I don't want to, in any way, shape, or form, pretend that I don't agree with you on that point of, if you're in cahoots with Hezbollah, that's not problematic.
That's a bit of an issue.
I certainly understand, though, the nuance of that brush we paint with.
Yeah.
When the situation is far less serious.
Right.
But we're using it.
Like what?
Like somebody whose opinion we disagree with because,
sure.
They are pro refugees.
Sure. Yeah.
That's often a sticking point for many.
Yeah, well...
But then that brush is used to be like, well, you're out.
Yeah, fair enough. It's been interesting, though, seeing how this has worked out in the last few years because there was a period of time, particularly through like the Middle East, through Syria, and those sorts of things, where refugee status was something that was granted to many, many people into places like Ireland, which is why we heard that Conor McGregor thing earlier on. But Sweden, for example, if you look at some of the changes to crime statistics there, massively immigrant-driven. Rightly or wrongly, do you say what? They didn't integrate them properly, blah, 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 blah. The fact of the matter is it's still immigrants there who are behind a huge surge in crime. So you start to say that as much as I would love to help you, there are certain cultures where their values are not compatible with your own. And what do you do in those circumstances? Because once you've taken them as a refugee, do you kick them back out again? But do you, though? It's very, very un-PC to do it, but it has been the reason for a lot of, say, more far-right. I hate using the term far-right, by the way, because a bunch of goofballs used it to codify if you vote far-right, you're a Nazi, which is dumb. There is far-right and then there is Nazi. They're different categories. If you need help with that, then God bless you. But there have been a lot of, more right-leaning parties that have come to power, principally because they've said we can't pretend that inviting all these people into our country is not affecting us in any way.
Right.
And it's not sustainable.
Right.
So this is kind of how I see it unfolding. I mean, in New Zealand, we're very isolated from this. So it's very simple for us to sit back and be like, wow, you guys are terrible.
Should do better.
Because our number of refugees per year is tiny. Like even as a percentage compared to other nations, we do not take a lot of refugees.
Is that due to our isolation or is that due to more political means?
Well, because the number of volunteers your country takes has always been a voluntary number.
Right.
Well, it's not like you have to take more. Who's going to make you? The refugees? So we've just always had a low number, and it's just been that way for a long time. So if we don't want to increase it, we don't have to. The worst you're going to get is an international tut-tut from the UN, and who really cares what they think anymore? So that leads us till now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else in here that we want to revisit? Oh, this whole adolescence thing. I just can't understand why you'd watch that. So this is a show, if you missed this part earlier on, it was the number 7 news story in the country in the last week. Everybody trying to find out about this new 4-part Netflix series about a young man who, for one reason or another, may have been drawn to do nefarious things due to the influence of the internet and social isolation and so on.
Okay, so here's a question for you, Andrew.
Yeah,
so
go.
later in that trailer,
Yep.
a different adolescent, young boy,
Yep.
not the one who we saw who was, house was raided by SWAT and arrested and, accusations were laid.
Yeah.
This other gentleman was talking about this narrative that comes online, which says 80% of women are attracted to only 20% of men.
Oh, I've heard this a lot. Yep.
And then this being basically the foundation for a narrative online pushed by various people.
Sure.
That you've got to basically change yourself, and the word that's used again in the trailer is trick them into choosing you.
Yeah, well, this is part of a broader thing that started to emerge online. And I remember one of my favorite observations on this was a guy by the name of Konstantin Kisin, who his take was anyone who sets you up to see the opposite sex as an enemy is taking advantage of you. So if you're then positioned to see, okay, well, there's guys versus girls and men are trying to get what they want and women are trying to get what they want and everyone's trying to get what they want out of everybody else and it's all just a big scam and a big game and all this kind of thing, you take the wrong perspective into relationships from the very, very beginning. So the stat they're talking about is regarding dating profiles on Tinder and online dating sites. That broadly speaking, women will only swipe on, effectively, about 20%. Not even that, to be honest. It's like if you consider yourself as you think about how people rate themselves, am I a 1 out of 10, 5 out of 10, 10 out of 10? It's generally the, 8s, 9s, and 10s that get all of the responses from the women. And why is that? Combination of looks and wealth and all that sort of stuff.
Well, especially if you're on that platform, that is what is pushed first and foremost.
Well, and this speaks to a broader thing too, of people saying how this is, so you are looking at the microcosm of online dating, but that those platforms have encouraged people to optimize for traits that are not conducive to successful relationships.
Now say that again, because that's fascinating.
Yeah, so dating platforms cause people to optimize for traits that are not conducive to long-term relationships. For example, how good you look is in no way correlated with how successful your marriage is. How much money you earn. Also, past a point. Like if you are broke, then yes, that's a problem. But like, hey, I earn $50 million, you are not more likely to be long-term married than somebody who only earns 60 grand a year. But that's what these things try to optimize for. Very superficial stuff. Also, your ability to charm and charisma. Lovely things to be around, very charming and charismatic people, but also not correlated with how successful your relationship is.
Also fascinating to me that both you and I found our now significant others, our wives, on dating sites.
Well, look, here's my counterpoint before we wrap up our stream today. And I'll say this, by the way, to anybody who may or may not be looking right now. There is something in life that says all the really worthwhile stuff is inherently low percentage. What do I mean by that? Well, how many people watching, viewing right now? You can look if you want as a last minute kind of response via the streams right now, or even texting in 8168 with the first word Rima, or the chat's in front of you here. How many people married the first person they dated? What percentage of people? Off the top of my head, I'd say it'd be 10% or less. Fair? Can we use that as a working,
absolutely. I mean,
working
maybe
stat?
a little bit higher in Christian circles might be the assumption.
Maybe, but I'd average out, say maybe 10%. Said, okay, so even if you're assuming everybody else married the second person they ever dated, your success rate in marrying somebody from those you've dated is already only 50%.
Right.
You only have a 50% success rate. If you've dated 3 people in your life, your chance of marrying somebody based on dating is only 33%. If you've dated 4 people, you see how this works, right? So if you go on, like, say, I think in my life, what would it be? Like 6 or 7, maybe? And this is like, people I've been in a serious relationship with, and then all the way through to I had a coffee date and decided it wasn't right, all right? Let's say for easy math it was 10, all right? I only married one of those people. So the chances of me going on a date and meeting the right person is only 10%. Oh, well, if it's only 10%, why bother? If it's only 10%, why even date? Because you've only got a 10% chance of meeting the right person. You probably shouldn't even bother doing it. Like, why would you do it if it's only 10% chance? Right?
Note the sarcasm.
Note the sarcasm, exactly. So what I'm saying is that these things that are worth doing are kind of low percentage. But why do we do it? Well, because I don't need all of them to work. I just need one of them to work. And then when I do, I'm good. So when you hear these kind of stories from people, I'm like, look, man, you might have to go on a few dates with people so you figure out, how do I have a communicate, like,
how do I date?
How do I date? How do I learn to set boundaries with somebody, respect their boundaries, acknowledge we have different communication styles, different wants and needs, some are similar, some are different, and that might take a bit of time, but it doesn't mean that it's not worth trying. You just recognize that this only has to work once, and then you're good. And then ironically, once you figured out how to date, you don't need to know anymore. You do have to learn how to be married, which some would argue differently.
There are transferable
challenges.
skills,
yes,
but not all transferable skills.
So, with that all said, I feel like that's the kind of conversation I'd want to say to people is like, look, one advantage we have, at least in the Christian community, is that we see relationships as being a lot more worthwhile. Long-term relationships are the goal, and building a lifelong successful partnership is also baked into our idea of why you even get married, right? So when you have that, you approach things a lot more constructively, as opposed to, I'm just looking to someone to spend time with because I don't want to be lonely. Because then you can churn through people relatively quickly. So those are my last thoughts on that one today. Josh, any other thoughts on Muslim immigrants before we go? I know you've been a rich source of hot takes on that topic today.
I think that it is certainly something that will continue to pop up in trending and give me opportunities to speak more eloquently on in the future. But I think also we should probably wrap up because do you know there's food waiting for us?
Well, there was. It was at 12:30, mate.
That's a good point.
Is anything still there?
I asked Alison to put some aside for us.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, God bless. Alison, by the way, is an absolute legend. She's like a house mum.
Oh, man.
She basically is.
The best.
She is the best. So, but you're the best, especially for sticking around up until now. So thanks again, guys, for being a part of this. And so great to see so many comments come through from you guys during the show as well. Very heartening to see. You're my fave. Mwah. We will see you again next week. Bye.